Hello everyone, this is Zeeebo and welcome to this AFK journey video. So in this AFK journey video, we're going to talk about the top 5 best PvP teams for normal arena defense itself. So for this video, we will be focusing more on the defensive side of things. And just a few disclaimers before we start today's video. The defensive teams, they are positioned in the map tree layout because this will be the most commonly used defensive map. And in most cases, most teams will want to position their units to be optimized on those maps itself. So to make things easier to showcase the different teams as well as to sort of give a reference for one of the most commonly used maps, we will be using the map tree for the defensive layout itself. And then for the second pointer, for the recommended team itself, we will recommend the team based off a full no celestial hypogean roster. But then we will be recommending substitutes with maybe 1 or 2 celestial hypogean unit depending on the team types, depending on the synergies between the units itself. So the base comp itself will have no celestial hypogean except for the very last archetype, the 1 celestial hypogean team archetype, which we will talk about later. But this will be as free to play as possible to keep to the top 5 free to play defense team in general. And then last but not least, you always want to build your teams based off your Paragon stats, because Paragon stats are just really good to give you the advantage in the PvP side. So there are certain units which might not be the most optimal, but it fits into the team archetypes to combo with the other units within all the different team recommendations. Feel free to use them because those units, they might not be the best, but because they have the stats advantage, you will be able to win more easily. Okay, so starting off, we'll start off with easily one of the strongest teams. But these teams that I'm going to talk about today, I think they are sort of ranked based on how good they are, assuming you are on the same tier as your opponent. So Bonnie Tazi really solid, easily one of the best team, if not the best, if not for Celestial Hypogean having more rivalry stats in the same tier itself. So let's say if you have a full Supreme plus Bonnie Tazi versus full Supreme plus maybe like 3 or 4 Celestial Hypogean character, then that Celestial Hypogean team will have that slight advantage because of the rivalry stats itself. But let's say if you are pitting this team against any other team that doesn't have the rivalry advantage, this is easily one of the strongest team right now in the meta, because Bonnie is just an insanely good PvP character. The longer she stays in battle, and she can also go both the burst route as well as the long drawn out battle route, because the case reach is a massive debuff that is able to slowly take down the enemy, and Bonnie being able to increase the magical damage as well as the ultimate damage for your whole team is insanely good when you combine that with Tasi, which is an AoE damage dealer, with control, with additional lives, with the ability to jump around, be very nimble, and dodge your opponent's attack in general. So these two combo together is just really good. That's why the core is Bonnie and Tasi right here. And then we have Ludovic as well as Damien for the sustain, as well as the haste buff at the start of battle for some burst potential. And Damien is also additionally a decently good Lily May bait if you do fight a long drawn out battle. So that's why we have Damien right here. We have Torian as a frontliner to deal against certain melee teams, but this team is not that afraid of melee teams in general because Tasi is pretty mobile. Bonnie also has the ability to reposition herself in battle. So generally speaking, Torian can be replaced with Resto if you have Resto built up to give you that additional magical damage, as well as energy regen on Tasi to spam her ultimate, and maybe damage reduction on your Bonnie for more protection with Resto in general. So that's one of the substitute that I suggested. That is if you have Resto built up as a free-to-play account. And then the other substitutes you can use is either Ludovic or Damien for the likes of Taylin, Lime, as well as Satrana or Lawson, based on the situation as well as your server preference. Taylin's better to give you additional lives, additional magical damage, as well as additional revives if you have her EX15. Lily May is really good against Iron teams, or just a really good individual unit as a whole, and also a really good magical damage dealer to combo with our dear Bonnie right here. And then Satrana together with Bonnie, vitality down together with damage over time basically brings down the opponent eventually. And Lawson offers that additional link as well as heal if you burst down the enemy, so pretty good on the bursting side. So these are the few different substitutes. Now for the obtain method, I've split up the units into the different places you can obtain their shards from, so you are able to sort of, I'll say, mentally sort of prioritize the units you want to go for in the different store so that you can build up these free-to-play arena teams in general. So Ludovic and Tasi, they can be obtained from the season store. so you can buy them with your season tokens. Bonnie is also going to go into the season store. Right now, Bonnie is only available on a wish list, but Bonnie will eventually come to the season store at the end of season 3 because she's one of the last units to be released in Waves of Intrigue season. So probably, I'll say in the last quarter of S3, somewhere in March or April. So that's for Bonnie's obtain method. Torrent's only available in a wish list, and Damien's obtainable from the Dream Store or even on your wish list itself, because Damien's one of the better Wilders A-level character. Okay, next we have your Wilders team in general. So the idea of this team is building around all the really solid Wilders PvP characters like Tasi, Hewin, Damien, Lilime, even your Iron Almas just as a frontliner for the team. So there's a whole bunch of really good Wilders character, and you can easily form a Wilders core team with this setup. So for this one, we will build the team based around Lilime, which is an insanely powerful PvP character. So the core of the team would be Damien, Hewin, as well as Lilime for the Wilders sustain, as well as Lilime to build up to become the hyper carry. So in this team recommendation, we have the addition of Tasi to further fit into the Wilders team setup, but you can easily put in a Bonnie as well. You can also include the Iron Almas package to give you that initial control at the start of battle. Even though Iron Almas together with Lilime isn't exactly the best combo, but you do have Hewin as well as Damien for the sustain fight itself. So that's for the different recommendation for this team. But for the tank, we still have Torrent as well, because Torrent is one of the better PvP tanks right now and is really good against melee teams in general, so recommend him. And he's also able to protect one unit pretty well with the link ability, which allows that unit to survive better. So in this case, we are protecting Hewin, so that Hewin's ultimate goes through, and Hewin's ultimate going through allows you to actually win a lot of matches with the massive damage reduction as well as the heals on all your allies in general. So this team is pretty solid. So the different substitutes you can pull with this team would be either using Twins to replace one of your supports, either through Damien or Hewin. I'll say most probably Damien, because Hewin and Twins, I'll say they can do pretty similar roles, just less that damage reduction from the ultimate in general, but more offensive buff in haste as well as stats. And then since this is a Wilder centric team, it is easy to fulfill the most units within the same faction condition for the Supreme Plus skill of Twins in general. So Twins is a good substitute for this team if you have Twins built up to Supreme Plus with more stats. You can also use Skalita for Tasi, so this will give you a very old school sustain Wilders comp where Lilime is able to cancel and slow down the fight together with the shielding from Skalita in the air with Hewin as well as Damien, and then Skalita will come down, slam the floor, and then maybe bring out some enemy from there. So that's the Skalita substitute for Tasi. Bonnie for Tasi or Hewin, like I mentioned earlier, if you want more damage or burst from this Wilders team in general, and this will probably tune the team more towards the Bonnie team earlier, so it is up to you whether or not you want to slot Bonnie into your team. And then for Torrent, you can use Fresto, Callan, or Iron Almas to fit that frontlining damage soaking role for the team itself. So that's for the tank portion. So for the obtain method, Lilime and Tasi now available in the season store. Okay, Torrent's from the wish list, and Damien's from the dream store, and Hewin is from the arena store. So if you build this team based on the individual unit parts, you can easily build up the team by concurrently purchasing their shards from the different stores and then putting the team together to form this Wilders team setup right here. So this is team number 2, the Wilders team. Team number 3, another decently free to play team, would be the Iron Almas Ardent Core. So this team is one of the old school strong teams, and it's pretty solid still right now if you have all these units built up, because the burst potential, if the Iron Almas combo pulls through, is still really powerful. So this team's core would be Iron Almas as well as Arden for that quick control route plus burst from Arden's damage output. And on top of that, you want to include either a Niru or Bryon to be a Lilime bait, because Lilime is a pretty powerful unit and is also a pretty common unit in PvP right now. So for this team, I think Bryon and Niru addition is quite important for your Iron Almas combo to pull through most of the time. So you can obviously use Lawson to substitute for Damien as well, because Lawson has that link to your opponent to allow 2 units to take around the same amount of damage with all these AoE bursts. And then once you kill the enemy, you get the burst from Lawson's Supreme Plus skill if you have Lawson built up. And then for Arden as well as Damien, you can slot them in for the likes of Elsa, Lilime, Bonnie or Siren for the additional tech based on your opponent matchups, as well as your unit tiers in general. So these are the different substitutes. I think Bryon as well as Niru will be a little bit subjective depending on whether or not there's a lot of Lilime, but I think Lilime is a pretty common unit, so I guess they are a pretty must-have for this team setup to work most of the time. So that's for the Iron Armor's defense com over here. We're using a lightning spell to allow your Arden to quickly use his skills and get control immunity and then burst down the enemy from there. So the obtain method for all the different units are as such. So Armors is obtainable from the season store, Irons from the wish list, one of the higher priority S level wilders, Damien Arden from the Dream Realm store, and Bryon from the Arena store itself. So pretty cheap team. You can build all the units concurrently without spending the same resources on one unit. Maybe Arden and Damien. Yeah, so for this one, I think it's subjective. I think you can put both of them on a wish list and then see who you get more, and then decide who you want to purchase from the Dream store as you build your account up. So that's for the Iron Armors Arden team. Okay, so fourth team, we are going to build teams around Siren. So Siren's a really powerful PvP character right now, even on the defense, but I think there isn't really like a must go-to combo with him. So for this recommendation, we're going to recommend a team with Siren as a core. So this one, we are using Siren together with the Graveborn package, Kellen, Ludovic as well as Bonnie. You can also use the Wilders package to actually make up for the magical damage as well. So Siren over here is able to silence the opponent in terms of their artifact and also confine an enemy at the start of battle with control immunity as well as the AoE Starshot ability. So offering a little bit of everything at the start of battle, and being positioned at a corner behind Hugin allows this unit to get the attack buff from Mechanized Bond. And Hugin additionally provides control immunity, shielding as well as damage reduction. Pretty good light barrel PvP character, and both of them has some initial energy at the start of battle. So ideally you want one of them to be the Lilime bait so that your other units can get off the ultimate. So other than that, another way to do it is you put in maybe like a Nero, for example, or put in a Bryon if you're using the Wilders package to bait out the Lilime's ultimate, and then have Hugin as well as our Siren ultimate go through. So those are the few ideas with regards to Siren. So this is on map 3. I think there could be a more optimized positioning, but with regards to the different substitutes, Vala is a good unit to substitute for either Bonnie or Ludovic, depending on whether or not you want more burst, or if you have specific matchups you want to beat with Vala. So that will be Vala being a really good PvP character. For the tank portion, you can also choose to use our dear Lucius, although Lucius is not exactly the best tank around, but fits with that light barrel synergy to give you more factional bonus, and also pretty decent with the shielding, right, to give you some defensive protection. So in this team, you have some heals from Ludovic, you have some shielding from our Hugin, and then you can have additional shielding with our Lucius to give you more protection for other units. So that's for the substitute portions. Okay, so Fresto Torrent can be substitutes for Kellen. You can also put in Lucius right here. So these are the different units I can think on top of my head. And then for the obtain method, Hugin as well as Bonnie, they're upcoming in the seasonal store. So Hugin will come first and then Bonnie. Siren's the current raid up unit. So if you are watching this video within the Siren banner, you can actually pull for a few copies and then put him on a wish list to build him up towards the Supreme Plus tier for that initial energy burst potential with this team. So we are using a lightning spell because I think burst variants are usually a bit stronger with Siren compared to the store variant, because silence your opponent artifact and then quickly burst them down would be a good idea with your Siren teams in general. So that's why for Ludovic's case, you can get him from the seasonal store, but for Ludovic's slot you can replace it with other bursters as well to bring down the opponent even more quickly. So that's for the potential changes. Kellen's a wishlist unit, but you can also use Torrent in his slot. or even Fresto if you have Fresto built up. So that's for the obtain method. Last but not least, if you have been playing the game for a little while, you might have 1 or 2 Celestial Hypogeum built up. So for that very last top 5 team recommendation, we're going to do a 1 Celestial Hypogeum team. So this is assuming if you have at least 1 Celestial Hypogeum put to the Supreme Plus tier, so you're able to benefit from their additional rivalry stats as well as their really powerful abilities in general. So let's say if you have only 1 Fresto built up to the Supreme Plus tier usable for PvP, you can slot Fresto into multiple teams, right? You can slot Fresto into your Siren teams, you can slot Fresto into your store teams, your assassin teams, for the frontlining power, for the energy regen, for the damage reduction. And in this case, we put it together with the Bonnie Tasi comp, giving the energy regen to Tasi to spam more ultimate, giving damage reduction to Lily May for her to survive better, and also having the magical damage synergy with Bonnie's debuff as well. Very good stuff. So this is probably the best team you can form free to play wise with 1 Celestial Hypogene with the Bonnie Tasi package. Second team, we have the Tailin team. So Tailin team is also really good with Bonnie and Tasi. Magical damage, your revives to give your units more lives, and you can also put Tailin with store teams in general. I think there are a lot of teams that can fit Tailin in as a damage dealer as well. So this unit is also relatively flexible if you do have her built up to Supreme or Supreme Plus with the EX15. So that's for Tailin's recommendation. And then for Cryonaya, one of the newer Celestial Hypogeum character, we are gonna probably build Cryonaya as the hyper carry. So the whole team will be built around supporting Cryonaya, getting to her ultimate. So we have the Light Bearer Siren team. So Siren's really good in slowing your opponent down. And then this is where your other units will be able to accelerate Cryonaya's ultimate and then allow your Cryonaya to come online on the ultimate to kill the enemy from there. So we have her placed behind Hugin for a few different reasons. Number 1, you get that mechanized buff as long as she stays in this position. And number 2, right, in terms of Hugin's buff itself, Hugin's shield is able to go onto Cryonaya even during her ultimate. So this gives you the additional shielding buff on Cryonaya when you are pairing Cryonaya with Hugin. And Hugin also has the additional initial energy which can be used to bait out your Lily May's ultimate. So Siren also has the initial energy. So you can actually bait out the Lily May's ultimate so that your other units can cast their skills without being interrupted by her. So that's for the team recommendation for Cryonaya. Last but not least, we have twins. So these are what I'll say the 4 Celestial Hypogeum characters that I think a lot of free-to-play players might have built up. And for twins, I think they are easily the most flexible unit together with Fresto in terms of the teams you can slot them in. I think more specifically, I think you can basically use twins as a support for all the different Damians, Hewin stuff, but they might not be as good in the defensive side, but they're definitely way better on the offensive side with all the massive haste buff as well as control immunity if you are able to pull through with their ultimates in general. So that's for the twin stuff. And that's pretty much it for this video. Just a simple breakdown of some of the very powerful defense teams that are also free-to-play friendly that you guys can build up. If you're completely new to the game, if you are a free-to-play player that have been playing the game for quite a bit, these are also really good teams that you guys can sort of build towards if you haven't done so yet, and try it out for your own account in general. So that's it for this video. Thank you very much for tuning in. Do remember to like and subscribe to see more. I'll see you guys again in my next video. Bye guys.